Alright, hello and welcome back to my tools tutorial in Unity. And today we're going to be covering making a nicer, better looking, more usable GUI, as you can see here. So as you'll see, we've got like loads of different tabs to break it up. So like it's not cluttered or anything, and we can still do all the stuff we could do before. So we've got like different painting modes, selecting sprites, and all that good stuff. And we can still use it. Just go into painting mode. Look, paint on different layers still. So I can switch to this layer, and all that good stuff. Yeah, so I am going to go on to and show you how to do that. Okay, so first off, I'm just going to cover, a few bits of code that will deserve explaining by themselves, because I use them a fair bit in this to sort of draw the GUI, and it'd be easier just to do it once at first. So the first off is this editor GUI layout dot begin horizontal, and this is paired with editor GUI dot layout dot end horizontal. There are also begin and end verticals if you want to do it vertically, but basically what this means is this will draw the GUI elements that are drawn between the begin and the end horizontally across from each other. So you'll see that here we've got a button to reset the tile map, and then we've got a little label explaining what the button does. If we go into the editor, we will see that it's the reset tile map and the label for it are drawn next to each other, basically, rather than vertically. And likewise, that's my script. Sorry, where is it? I've done a similar thing for the tile drawing, so we can decide to begin vertically as well. We do that and end vertically. Yeah, so that just gives a similar effect. Well, that's what the default is, kind of. It just draws the items vertically. But here we can specify that if you wanted to nest them and such. I'll get onto that in a minute. Okay, the second one is where is it? Sorry, all right. SceneView.onSceneGUI.delegate. Sorry, I messed up reading that. SceneView.onSceneGUI.delegate. That's where I've kind of found to explain it. It's kind of like a list of methods, like on-scene GUI methods that have to be called every frame, because you'll have multiple. Say if you had how Unity has all these like tools and shit, they'll all have an on-scene GUI method to draw whatever they wanted to, whatever GUI components they use. So they will use. This is a list of all the on-scene GUI methods that have to be called every frame. And what we're doing here is we are just adding our own on-scene GUI to that list. So I've got the method here, I believe. Yep, here. That's just saying, all right, we want, in addition to all the other on-scene GUIs, we want this one to be called as well. And that's that. Was there anything else? And likewise, we have there is a minus equals, so when we don't want it to be called anymore because we're done with the editor, we've closed it or whatever, we can say minus equals on-scene GUI. And that has to be the same as the method name, but it has to be on-scene GUI, so there's no real okay. Okay, so now for the actual editor content. There are a couple of new things that weren't in the level create inspector. First off is that we now call execute in edit mode. So this is saying we want to run this script while the editor is in edit mode. Pretty easy enough. Next, we inherit from editor window rather than, I believe it was just editor. Yeah. So this time we inherit from editor window. So that's like a window we can draw in the editor. I don't know how to explain that any simpler, but yeah. So we can use all those methods that are including the editor window in here. Next up, you might see a menu item here. This basically allows us to add a little tab in the drop-down menus on Unity, and the string you pass into it specifies where it goes. So if we go into the Unity editor now, and we click on Window, Unit02 Games, and 2D Level Editor, that will bring up the level editor. I'll actually just close it now to demonstrate it. So Window, 2D Level Editor, and it brings it up, and we've got it there. And we can still use all the stuff. We could paint tiles and shit, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah. Okay. One thing for that's different about level editors is, well, not level, sorry, like editor window scripts I found, is that they don't let you have non-static variables. I think this is because, well, because you're only going to have one instance of the editor window like in focus at any one time, because you can't like have two cursors at once clicking on two different editor windows and whatnot. So I think that is why all the variables have to be static. So keep that in mind. And that said, for the variables we've got in this script, we've got the current level creator, selected toolbar option, which I'll go in a minute, a string of an array of strings that give us all the options we want on the toolbar. So, like we had little lines dividing it up on the inspector GUI, here we've just made them into toolbar options. So we've got grid options, grid expand, layer options, painting mode, and sprite selection. I've got a new game object array of tiles because I've made a change where the sprite processor will now pass the array of tiles it loads in using resources.loadAll to, it'll pass it to the level editor using the set sprites method, which is here. Just sets the array basically, because this is where we're selecting them from rather than the level creator. Finally, we've got an editor window, my window, which is just the actual window in the scene, or in the editor, sorry, because the scene's somewhat different. Okay, so next up is the onEnable method, which is just it's called once when the button at this path is clicked that I just showed you to bring up the level editor, and it calls all this. So what we're wanting to do is we try if we've not got a tile map and it can't find one in the open scene, it will create a new one. Otherwise, it will just use the first one it finds. Then it will add our unseen GUI delegate. So our unseen GUI is called every frame. It will assign the window it will use this editor window.getWindow type of level editor. This basically just draws a window of this type because we're inheriting from editor window, and assigns it to this my window so we can access it. And then we set the size, so I've just set it to be 300 pixels by 600, so it's a nice rectangle-y shape that we can use. Yeah. So next method is create new tile map. This is just basically, since we can't have a prefab, we can't like drag and drop a prefab in like we can with the actual inspector version. So what I've done is we're basically just creating it via code. So creating a new game object, setting its position to be 000, setting its name to be tile map, adding a level creator, adding a current tile map, setting the current tile map, sorry, to be the level creator script we added, and initializing that. But one issue with that is that since we're not using the prefab, how do we have the defaults? Well, if you go to your scripts folder, and we've got level creator, just click on the inspector, you can see here that we can actually assign some of the variables as like a default for the script. So when it's added, if you've not like changed the values or it's on a prefab, but if it's not on a prefab, sorry, it's just being added to an object, these are the default values it will have on it. So as you can see, we've got the blank tile sprite. It's not very clear because it's transparent mostly and white, whatever. We've got cursor sprite and we've got a prefab for a blank tile. We don't need any of the other ones because that's not really necessary. They're all set elsewhere. So by setting these, when we add the scripts to the object, it will have these default values and won't come up with an error, and it will actually have tiles to spawn and whatnot. Okay. Next is the onGUI. This is not to be confused with the actual, like how in-game you have an onGUI method to draw like health bars and whatnot. This actually is what draws the inspector. So it's what draws all this shit here on the right of the screen. Sorry, don't know my lefts and rights. Yeah. This is just functionally identical to the inspector, but a bit more neatly organized. So first off, we have a check if the level create. Basically, this is just a temporary bug fix problem that I will have to address in the next episode, which I'll talk in a minute about. Basically, if the singleton for level creator.me is null, it will just basically find any one in the scene and set it to that. Otherwise, and like if the current tile map is null and it can't find one, it will give you the option to initialize the tile map and create an initial layer if it isn't initialized. If there is one, but it isn't initialized. That was just to handle cases like where the user had manually deleted the actual tile map for whatever reason. Yeah. Okay, so the main difference between level creator inspector and this is the toolbar, which sort of neatly divides up everything. This GUI layout.toolbar takes an integer, which is basically the value that is just a number that it stores to sort of say what option is selected, and it takes an array of strings to represent the options. And what that provides is this little row of buttons here. So if I click, these basically go from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that just stores the number in this selected toolbar option integer. And what that means is we can use this integer to define what we want to draw for the GUI. So say if selected button is 0, we're going to want to draw like the options for the tile map. So I've got a disable or enable cursor and reset tile map and the label for that. But if we have 1, if the select toolbar option is 1, we've got the buttons to expand the grid on any side. 2, we've got the layer selection, changing the sorting orders here. And 3 is on paint sprites. Oh, I should bloody zoom in because I forgot to do that again. Oh well. Yeah, so 3. Yeah, this is all basically just the same code as within the level creator inspector script, but I've added these GUI that begin horizontal and end horizontal layers just to make everything look a bit neater. So you can like change it around to your own tastes or whatever. And yeah, so I've got the current tile map, the paint area. I did add one new thing where it will draw the currently painting tile, the current tile that you are painting into the world, along with the painting controls. And finally, we've got our sprite selection. So I've got a button to load sprites, and that will call both the refresh and process sprites methods from the sprite processor, or via the level creator, because then it makes the checks that the sprite processor is not null. And finally, for this drawing, then we draw the tiles if there are tiles to load. One thing you might notice is we've got an X and Y here. This is just so we can draw the tiles in rows of 4. I've just got a Facebook message, so I will close Firefox. That was loud. So yeah, if Y equals 0, it begins a vertical layout area, and if X is 0, it begins a horizontal area, and then it will draw the asset preview, which is basically just a drawing of the prefab object here. So basically just draws a tile, which is quite nice. Then if you press a button, it goes into the current tile to paint, and then increments X. And if X is equal to 4, it will end the horizontal, it will set X to 0, and increment Y. And then it resets back, and since once 4 have been drawn, it'll start a new horizontal area. Oh, sorry. It will end the horizontal area and then start a new one below it. So that's how we get our rows of 4. Yeah, and that's it. Got a couple of new. Anything else? Yeah, we do. Sorry. We've got a on-scene GUI. Like I said before, this is just called by adding it to that delegate. What it does is it checks. It just returns if we don't have a current tile map that is initialized. I don't need that on scene GUI. Basically, what it stores the mouse in scene. So this is the mouse position in the scene window, otherwise known as this little window here, because we need the event.current.mouse position to access it, and that is only available in GUI methods. So that's why we do it here in this unseen GUI. And finally, we call the current tile map get info on grid dimensions should we paint tile and set cursor position, because this is called every frame. So that is basically why we do it here. It's only done if it's initialized, and I've covered those before, so if you want to work out what they do, go to previous episodes or whatever. Finally, on focus, basically when we click on the window, it refreshes the GUI delegate, so it'll take away the unseen GUI from the delegate and then add it again. And when we close the window, it just removes it, so it's not called. It doesn't basically call it. On inspector update, that is this is basically what we use to repaint the GUI, so values update in real time while we're using the inspector. I think that's called every frame that the inspector was drawn. So we repaint the actor. So I think it was, where is it? Yeah. So basically, it repaints the GUI every frame so that we can see how you can see here, if the cursor shows up in the video, that there's a mouse in world that shows you where in the world the mouse is, and yeah, it updates as we move the mouse. Okay, and we don't actually need that update. That was something else, so we can get rid of that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There are two actual changes. Sorry, completely forgot. So level on the level creator, I think layer is the one. I got rid of the right output thing because it was only for debugging purposes anyway. Well, not debugging. Basically to demonstrate that we could access the tiles by moving the mouse. So since we know we can, we don't need it anymore, and that's why I've just commented it out. I could probably get rid of it all, but just in case, I'll do that next time. Fuck it. Yeah. And was there anything else I wanted to change? No. Just in case you didn't know, sprite processor, it says it here. I think I did already show that. So yeah, that was the editor GUI. I'll just show you. I'll just paint something with it. Let's find a nice tile. Show that one. Just click and paint. Sometimes it is a bit finicky. I'll have to work on that. I think it's when we've reached the edge of tiles. So here's number 9. Give it a bit of interior. And yeah, just draw more red sprites because why not? Yeah. So yeah, cheers for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. There's a sort of thing. Basically, I released sort of the full-ish version. It's 90% complete. I'm just working on one more game mode for it. Then I'll start trying to work out how to put it on Steam. But yeah, sorry. Yeah, Loud or Quiet is out now on itch.io, the full version. So you get the full version of the story and arcade mode. And sometime early next month, because I'm maybe on the 6th or 7th, you'll get Apocalypse mode. Or like the 7th of September or something, or maybe a bit earlier. Which is a new game mode I'm working on, and that will have for Loud or Quiet. And that'll be like the final finish marker for it, so the game will actually be complete. I did make a update for this month, which you may have seen yesterday, which had a load of like little updates that improve the quality, like you know how I've expanded some of the edges of the level, so there aren't invisible walls blocking off. I've got more sound effects for like when you're transitioning between areas of levels, so like lift doors and walking up ladders and stuff like that. And for like sound effects when bullet shells drop, and I've made some of the GUI a bit prettier and better to use and all that stuff. So yeah, it is a paid for game now, so there is a demo version available that just has the arcade mode to give you a taster. So please go check that out. Yeah, so link will be in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit, and goodbye.